Hello everybody and welcome into the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series. Live here tonight with the second to last race in the round of 10 at none other than the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. And thank you all so much for tuning in here tonight. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Well, qualifying is complete. 10 drivers remain in the battle for a championship with just a few races left in the overall season as a whole. Of course, next week going to be the last race in the round of 10. But for tonight, I feel like for a lot of drivers, it's going to feel like the last opportunity, as Daytona always presents a wild card and a big opportunity for anybody to grab a win. Let's get right down trackside and get into tonight's starting grid. How about on the pole? It's going to be Kevin Winker in the 42. He is one of your playoff drivers. Keith Prince will start in second here tonight with Michael Miller back in third. Joe Yates in fourth. Michael Newman and Haas Beverly will start back in row number 3 with points leader at the moment, David Traylor, back in 7th. Dylan Paws starts 8th, Mark Beverly in 9th, and Evan Schilling rounds out your top 10. Eric Hegdahl, he'll start back in 11th here tonight. Lance Thompson in the 21 car will start in 12th. Moving on back to row number 14. It's going to be Colton Hardy alongside Charles Van Schaik. Another 2 of your round of 10 drivers to keep an eye on. Jonathan Herbert will start back in 17th. In fact, we skipped around, meant to go Jesse Calloway first, who's going to be starting 15th. Then you've got Clinton Woodby to his outside in 16th. Jonathan Herbert back in 17th, with Tyler Beverly making a start here tonight from 18th. And Rick LePage, the Canadian driver, rounds out your 18-car field. All right, presenting the race info here tonight. QH Design, the sponsor of tonight's action. So it will be the QH Design 250. That breaks down to 100 laps with a stage break on lap 20, 95% fuel. You do have 4 sets of tires and that one fast pair, which is always good to have at pretty much any track, but especially here tonight with how crazy things are probably going to get, especially at the end. Fixed setups and 3 green light checkers if we were to need them. And then the other thing, obviously, to keep an eye on is the weather conditions in the sim right now. Outside, 81 degrees, 70% humidity. Clear skies, winds at 8 miles an hour. Track temp, 90 degrees. And Daytona International Speedway is 2.5 miles with over 30 degrees of banking in the corners. And it is a very, very fast super speedway. The name of the game here is pushing and shoving. I think you're going to see a lot of that here tonight. Well, we got a couple of things set up here tonight. It had some brief issues if you tuned into the broadcast last night, so I was trying to do a little bit of last-minute testing, but for once, I can say everything actually went smoothly. So hopefully we can keep it that way, but I want you to turn your attention to that scoring tower on the left of your screen. The drivers that are underlined in purple, those are your round of 10 drivers fighting to try to advance through. There's Kevin Winker, Michael Newman, David Traylor, Evan Schilling, Mark Beverly, Eric Hegdahl, Charles Van Schaik, Colton Hardy, Clinton Woodby, and Jesse Calloway. Again, keep an eye on all those names here tonight, as we're not at the elimination phase just yet. That'll be next week at North Wilkesboro, but still certainly at a point where it's going to be important to notice where everybody stands in points at the moment. And if you get a win here, great possibility that you could lock yourself in going forward. All right, pace car with the lights off. We will be going green this time. And leading him to, again, is going to be Kevin Winker in the 42. He's one of the super speedway aces. Certainly nothing new to see him qualifying up front. And Keith Prince, if you remember back, actually got his first win of the season back at Talladega Super Speedway. So don't count him out here either. Now, of course, Keith Prince not necessarily racing for a championship anymore, more so looking for trophies. But boy, what a sweet one to get at none other than the World Center of Racing. Pace car makes a left turn, and here we go. The QH Design 250 is underway. Green flag is in the air at Daytona. as the field rockets across the start-finish line for the first time here tonight. 2 laps in the books. Kevin Winker was able to lead that first one, the 77 of Michael Miller. Looking to the inside is Keith Prince going to get lined up top, and whoa, big wiggle out back from the 22. That was Haas Beverly. Man, that could have been really bad early as he got down and almost into the door of David Traylor. Big saves, though, and now the inside starts to roll down the super stretch. And you're going to hear me saying a lot tonight how important pushing and shoving is, but not necessarily just how important it is, but how important it is to do it in the right places. These Xfinity cars can get very, very sketchy if you start pushing guys offset or if you start pushing in the corners. But at the same time, at the end of the race, if you're able to do it right, you can make yourself a lot of progress really, really quickly. So we'll keep an eye on that. By the way, one guy trying to make his way through the field, carrying an onboard view for us here tonight, and that is none other than Colton Hardy. Has the QH Design sponsor, obviously, on that race car. Going to see if he can win this event here tonight. Currently sitting just behind Evan Schilling in that 18 machine. And he is down a spot from where he qualified. The man he'll be trying to get linked up with here tonight is going to be his teammate, David Traylor, who currently sits in third, up 4 spots from where he started this race at. And may not have it exactly correct, but if I remember right, I don't think David Traylor's necessarily the biggest fan of super speedway racing. Obviously, a little bit less technical than some of the other tracks that we head to, or even the track we're going to head to next week. But it's a different aspect, and it's a whole different beast, and some people love it, some people don't. Either way, it's a part of it. And how about these 2 cars? Looks like Smokey and the Bandit ×2 for, looks like Lance Thompson and the 45 of Tyler Beverly. Good to see Tyler making a start here tonight. You don't see Tyler full-time anymore. Got to see him a little bit last season and get to see him a little bit this season. And if you're going to make a start, make it at the tracks that count, and Daytona is a big one. Everybody trying to check this box to win here tonight. Now, if you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. You are watching the QH Design 250 for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series Round of 10. Race number 2 or 3 for these guys. Again, they took off Valentine's Day, and we already got one blowing up on the apron. That's the 12 of Michael Newman. One of your round of 10 drivers are trying to save it, but they're going to wreck up front. The 3 car goes around. Keith Prince is going to save it, but just behind him, Mark Beverly's going to go for a slide. Mark Beverly brings it to a halt before he gets to the inside safer barrier. And that's another one of your round of 10 drivers that we didn't get to mention yet here tonight, involved in an incident early. You can see a little bit of damage to the rear bumper of that race car. We'll have to go in and get that fixed, although I don't think he's going to choose to use that fast repair. Might be a little too early for that. But for Mark Beverly, lucky that, again, that wasn't a whole lot worse than it was. By the way, quick note, you notice on Mark Beverly's driver card down there, just below his hometown, it says round of 10. That will be another indication if you see a driver with that on their driver card that they are one of the drivers still currently in the playoffs. Okay, so here we go. This is all going to start with the 12 of Michael Newman, who actually gets the worst of this, but then catches a huge break with this caution. But either way, he's probably going to lose a lap, depending on how quickly he was able to take that fast spur. He may not, actually, if he was able to either coast it around or go in, and I don't know what the penalty is for entering a closed pits. We'll get to that in just a moment, but, I mean, the motor just goes on him. And I was trying to figure out, was he really pushing in line here? Yeah, he was linked up for quite a bit down the backstretch. Now, when these cars get hot, they take a little bit to cool down, but when you get into the red, at any point, and when I say in the red, I'm talking temps well over probably about 270, maybe creeping up into the 280s for either oil or water temp. Once you get to that range, the car could blow up at any moment. And for Michael Newman, right there, he backs off. But the problem is I think he backs off a little bit too late. And even though it's cooling down, it's not going to be able to get out of the red here before it ends up blowing up. So watch, he backs off. Michael Miller, and then right there, just goes on him. And, well, I said he lost a motor here. I still think that's what happened. I mean, I see smoke out of the back. And, yeah, that must have been what happened. Obviously didn't have any sort of a downshift here. Did the motor still run is my question here. Or does he just take it right to the pits? No, he takes it right to the pits, so that motor must have completely went kaboom. I'll tell you, one of the diciest things about when you blow a motor like that, knowing that you got to get to your pit stall, is you only get one chance to stop. If you overshoot or come up a little bit short, you're going to have to take the tow around, and that certainly takes a lot of time and a lot of track position from you. So there you go, Michael Newman right there officially shuts the motor off after it had already blew up. Gets in his pit stall. He's going to take 4 tires and use a fast repair. And so that was what sparked the initial kind of chaos here, as everybody has to spread out to try to miss him. And then watch how things develop from there. We're going to go first up here, right around where Jonathan Herbert's running in that 88 car. And here you go. So he blows up, everybody sees it, and now it's just trying to scatter to somehow find a way to avoid him. The 55 of Mark Beverly gets tagged a couple times, but right here he keeps it together. That contact, though, shoots him up the racetrack a little bit. Now Keith Prince is up the track. He's just about on the outside wall. Maybe some net code between him and Woodby. Gets him turned around down the track into Mark Beverly. And then Beverly's going to go for a slide across the nose of Jonathan Herbert. And that was the second incident that unfolded. But again, that could have been a whole lot worse, all things considered, at least with the way it started. So for Jonathan Herbert here, he saw this whole thing unfold from step one. And watch for the smoke plume. Kaboom, there it is. Realizes it. But it's just so hard to get checked up when you're going almost 200 miles an hour. So obviously took Herbert a moment there. And then a couple of close calls right there after the initial contact. Let's go back and watch Mark Beverly here. The car that spun out. But again, really I think the only damage he sustains here is going to be in the rear of that race car. As gets tagged right there in the left rear. And then as he starts to go up the track, a little bit of net code between him and Keith Prince. Prince gets loose and would be trying to check up. I don't even know if Woodby ever touched him right there. Either some net code or just Keith Prince losing it after getting into the outside wall, rather. But then as he comes back down, obviously some contact, and he's got a little bit of damage to his left front. Herbert may have a little damage to the front nose. And then obviously Mark Beverly right there with the bulk of the damage to the rear end. Give you one more look at this here before we go back live. This will be from the turn 3 and 4 drone cam here. Watch as it all unfolds right here as they come into the corner. There's Michael Newman. I mean, it's just, I'll tell you what, I know it's a wreck, but we really, I know I said it once, but I'll say it again. We really did get away with one right there. You just don't do that. When somebody blows a motor here up front, and these guys are running 2 and 3 wide behind, it almost always ends in an incident, but somehow, everybody did a really good job of dodging that one for the most part. So a nice job right there. And Kevin Winker, by the way, who currently sits in that 3rd spot, started on the pole and had a bit of a sketchy angle through this. Wanted to go show you his view one more time before we go back live, as he was right in the middle of all this. And see, he's shot by Michael Newman, and then sees some smoke out in front, tries to go low, and then, has to go back up right there at the last second. He does so. Nice job by the driver out of Campbell Sport, Wisconsin, who again will now start back up front after dodging that one. So to wrap up your first caution up front, Michael Miller leads the way. Charles Van Schaik second. And currently your highest running round of 10 driver, Jonathan Herbert, back in 3rd, with Keith Prince 4th, Kevin Winker currently rounding out short top 5. Well, 95% fuel in these cars can stretch to probably right around 30, at least 35 laps, maybe a little bit longer, but I think right around 35 laps is the general fuel window, at least if you're leading. Obviously, if you're back in the draft, you can save a little bit more, so keep an eye on the first pit stop to not be until after we get into the second stage, because now we're just about halfway through stage 1, which is, again, going to come to a close at lap 20. Green flag back in the air. It's a good restart for Van Schaik. He was quickly able to jump out and clear the 77 of Michael Miller. Not sure if those two are working together here tonight, but for Van Schaik, a little bit of a different paint scheme than what we saw him with last time. So he'll be trying to see if he can get that car into victory lane, get himself locked in. And here we go already. This outside going to try to show some organization. I saw a couple thinking about 3 wide. They thought better of it, but Colton Hardy, big run. Kevin Winker saw how that was going to turn out, so quickly took that run back down to the bottom. That leaves Herbert up top by himself. Colton Hardy, though, going to arrive on the scene, looking for a brief push. Man, you see just how close Colton got right there, but then decided better of it. A little too early to maybe try to push the 88 through the corner. I think that it's really going to be the guys who are willing to be more aggressive pushing are going to be the lines that really move here tonight. 2 cars normally in these Xfinity cars don't make much ground, but if you're aggressive with your pushes and the other lane's kind of sleeping a little bit, you can make something happen. And really, that's exactly what Colton Hardy's doing. For Jonathan Herbert right now, the inside not pushing quite as aggressively. Michael Miller trying to square him up down the straight, but not with the most success. But there's the trade-off. The outside, just as it looked like they were going to get a run, Colton Hardy was trying to get aggressive on the push and got Herbert just a little bit sideways. It killed their momentum. And even down the entirety of the super stretch, everybody stayed even. That cooler track temp, see there on the bottom right, well under 100 degrees. That is also going to make it tougher for this outside to make progress. But if you watch any of the money racing broadcasts we do, which are always at super speedways, You'll hear us say a lot that any lane can work if you got the right pushers behind you. Still 2x2 now, officially 10 laps in the books. And we are halfway through stage number 1 here at Daytona. If you're just tuning in, you picked a good race to watch for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series, as they are getting ready to close out the round of 10 next week at North Wilkesboro. Of course, the wild card round here tonight at Daytona. Keith Prince currently sitting back at about that 9th to 10th spot. In fact, looks like he's just a little bit further than that. He's up in 8th. But he still has a little bit of damage on the front nose of that race car. I was wondering how it would affect him, but it seems like in draft, he's still pretty good. Out in front might be a bit of a different story. And as they cross the line this time, it will officially be 11 of 20 laps in the books. But here we go. Looking for 3 wide, nothing doing right there. I think the 45 of Tyler Beverly is content to stay in line. You might have to look back to a David Traylor here to try to get the spark going, and I'm curious as to how aggressive are these guys going to get for the stage. We've already got a few of them just kind of hanging back, taking it easy right now. No point in getting too aggressive just yet. And so as it stands at the moment, Dylan Pauls rounds out the back of the pack. He currently sits in 19th, Michael Newman in 18th. Rick LePage up in 17th, Joe Yates 16th. There's Clinton Woodby in the 92 and 15th. Mark Beverly trying to recover after that first incident. He currently finds himself in the 14th spot. And then you've got Jesse Calloway, Haas Beverly, Lance Thompson, the remaining drivers outside of the top 10. A couple people in the chat here tonight. Herbie's Wild Ride says, go to the 88. And I'm assuming that was referring to the last wreck. And yeah, we saw it from Jonathan Herbert's view. K-Dub in the chat says, good wreck avoidance for the 42. Big Roos says, who are these guys? Well, it's not a money racing series, but it still is a super speedway race here tonight. Just a regular league these guys run at a variety of tracks, but tonight they happen to be at the High Banks. And then Shauna Rita says, Winker Nation. Big Roos says, these ain't money races. Maybe a couple. No, these are not money races. These are just, well, I guess, I don't know, I mean, technically you could call them a money race because there is some money on the line. For the winner of this one is, whoa, big wiggle. Now another big wiggle. David Traylor has to catch it and split out 3 wide in the process. Capping off that point real quick, not money races, but there is a prize here tonight, so I'm glad that you mentioned that to the winner of this race. And if I pull it up, looks like it is, I'll take it back, actually not tonight, but they do occasionally have like a $25 to the winner, $5 to the most laps led, stuff of that nature, but I do not see one here tonight. Nonetheless, though, a lot of these guys racing to try to advance into the next round, the round of 5, the championship, which will be in a couple weeks in Homestead, Miami. So back up front, Kevin Winker continues to lead here. Charles Van Schaik on the outside, and David Traylor trying to get back down, and oh man, he's going to try to squeeze the 45, but Tyler Beverly not going to cut him any slack. David Traylor just wants to get back down and lie and ride, but nobody really letting him do it, at least not yet. There's David Traylor on the outside, still rolling. No help out back, at least not right now. Just as I say that, looks like he'll get some here for Evan Schilling. And Schilling going to let him drop back down in line. So we'll get back to 2x2 here as they work through the complex of turn 1 and 2. By the way, Evan Schilling, you see in the radar scope paint scheme. Good looking paint scheme on that car. Really like that one. Further back, Lance Thompson's going to drop down. Joe Yates still in pause. Starting to get lined up further back. And I think if you're a playoff driver, you could obviously argue the risk of maybe getting aggressive now and trying to get those stage points. Worst case scenario, you get caught up in a wreck. You do still have that fast repair to kind of lean on if you need it. But what you can't do is, if you're not a playoff driver, go up here, get in a wreck, have to use your fast repair now, and then kind of hinder your chances of still being in it at the end if you were to get in a wreck then. So just keep an eye on the different strategy play. Obviously, the pit's still open as well. So if you were a driver interested in, say, flipping any track position, that option is certainly still on the table as well. Kevin Winker still on point off of turn 2. Michael Miller has been a very loyal pusher to just about anybody that he's been behind so far here tonight, and showing that again here. 42 of Kevin Winker. It goes Chevy, Toyota, Ford, followed by another Toyota and another Chevy. So the split up front manufacturer-wise is still pretty even. And I think that Van Schaik is going to get another run charged up on this outside. It might take him a little bit longer. But once him and Herbert get lined up, I think these two are really going to roll now. Just 4 laps remaining here in stage number 1. And they stay 2x2 as they rocket down the short chute into turn number 1. By the way, pit stop-wise, nobody making a stop yet. I think the latest you'd see it would be maybe a couple laps before we get to the end of the stage. Mark Beverly now starting to work his way back up into the mix. We'll see if he decides to get aggressive for stage points. Colton Hardy up front now. He's going to pull out of line. This may be the first move for the lead. Kevin Winker is going to try to jump a lane higher. Will Hardy split? He does not. Instead, he gives the 42 a bit of a shot off into turn 3. That stacked up the outside just briefly. Everybody holds it together, though, as they work off the banking out of turn 4. Now Eric Hegdahl is going to make the move up. Kevin Winker will look for another block. Will the 11 split? No, he doesn't. He'll stay in line for right now as they work through the tri-oval. And if you're Kevin Winker, again, right now he's well in control of these lanes. You see how he's doing it. He's up really early. He's not throwing any late blocks, at least not yet. We're going to be coming to 2 laps to go on the stage next time, so I think these guys are getting ready kind of take the gloves off and go for it. And there goes Eric Hegdahl trying to split. Watch out, almost direct. Some contact as Winker tried to cover the block. Hegdahl got split as the 97 of Hardy went up top. And they are 3 wide as they work into turn 3. This is going to get tight. Watch your mirrors right here if you're Eric Hegdahl, as now it's Colton Hardy going to be the odd man left out. And for Colton Hardy here, he's going to have to find somewhere to either jump in line or just hold it up there. He's looking for a side draft, anything that can get him some momentum back. He finally finds a gap to jump into. And unfortunately, he may not be back to 2x2 yet. Now it's Jonathan Herbert, the odd man out. He's stuck in the middle, and he'll go backwards unless this line lines up in his favor. Evan Schilling going to tag the outside wall. Here's David Traylor going with his loose lug nuts teammate, Colton Hardy. And I think now they're getting ready to commit to this third lane. The question is, where does Winker, where does Hegdahl, where does Van Schaik go? Does anybody else jump up to this third lane down the super stretch? Not yet. 2x2 for the lead now with the middle and the outside. Hardy not quite able to get there by turn 3. Oh, trouble out back. Watch out, the 88 of Herbert. Going to lose it. He's going to go to the outside wall. Some more trouble here. Can they all save it? Evan Schilling was involved in that one. And off of turn 4, we almost had another incident, but they all keep it together there. Herbert's slow. Dylan Paz arrives on scene. He's slow. We keep it green now as we see just 1 lap to go here in stage number 1. Oh, Van Schaik gonna get turned around. Can he save it? No, he doesn't. They're gonna wreck in turn number 1. Kevin Winker back up the track. Hard hit for Colton Hardy. Lance Thompson. Caution is out. The stage will end under yellow. And similar to the first one, this is going to collect a few of your playoff drivers. It's not what Colton Hardy wanted to see. After looking like he was going to have a chance to maybe go up there and try to win the stage, he ends with some damage. And now may potentially have to use his fast repair well before we're even to the halfway point in this race. So again, the stage will officially end under caution, but let's go back and look at exactly what's causing, or what caused it rather, to end that way. So we had 2 different incidents here. And I think obviously these guys that were further back in that second incident, or I guess I should call it the first incident, catch a bit of a break with this. Evan Schilling got major damage from it. But this one all starts back in turn 3 and 4. In fact, more so when they're entering turn 3. Jonathan Herbert up front. You see they're 3 wide, and these guys were starting to really squeeze on each other. You can tell it was just going to be a matter of time before there was some contact. And as they get into turn 3, looks like the 45 of Tyler Beverly working up the racetrack a little bit. He's not quite holding that car pinned to the bottom. I'm not sure if it's a handling issue or something a little different. Sometimes if you don't set the car into the corner here, it tends to like to do that. But watch it again from the chopper view as they get into the corner. The 88 of Herbert trying to hold the middle. He's kind of straddling that seam. As they get into the corner, Herbert does come down a little bit. But obviously the 45 coming up off the yellow pretty significantly. And I don't know if there's quite contact. Yeah, maybe a little bit right there. Maybe a little bit of netcode even, but it's enough to shoot that 88 car out of shape. As he starts to lose it, comes back down, gets back up, and he collects Jesse Calloway, one of your round of 10 drivers. Calloway gets some rear end damage, but saves it. But ultimately, it's the on-rushing Evan Schilling, who really had nowhere to go, and backed that up one more time right here. Show you that hit again here for Evan Schilling, who we talked about, just nowhere to go as this unfolds. He's going to see it, and there's the 88 into the wall. Here comes the 18. Bam! Runs right into the back of him. And once the damage is done, it's done. So those two, after the damage they receive, start to limp back to the pits. Calloway continues on. He's okay. And then up front, these guys are getting really aggressive for it. As they go into turn 1, something gives here. Let's see what it is. Eric Hegdahl goes back to the bottom, and ooh, Looks like some contact between Colton Hardy and Charles Van Schaik, possibly. Let's go watch this from the chopper cam and see if it was physical contact or maybe a little bit of invisible contact here via netcode. Here you go. See the 23's got a little bit of rear bumper damage. Goes back up. Hardy's lining him up for a shove. Right. Oh, he just gets him at a little bit of a rough time. Right as you go into the banking of the corner, the car kind of well, I don't want to say it unloads. It more so gets a little light as it gets ready to load once the car actually sets itself into the corner. And they're kind of on that transition point, if you will. And so you see the 23. He's trying to kind of follow Hegdahl, see what Hegdahl's going to do. And then right as Hegdahl starts to go down, the 23 briefly checks up just a little bit. That's right as Hardy's getting to his rear bumper. Colton gives him a tap. It's a square hit, but again, it's just an awkward spot for it. Gets that 23 down the racetrack. Was hoping he'd save it, but obviously that transition from the banking onto the apron being completely flat, just too hard to hold the car down there at over 180 miles an hour. And then as he slides back up, collects Winker and Hardy. Winker takes a pretty hard shot to the outside wall, but it's Colton Hardy who gets the bigger hit, and he gets tagged by the 21 of Lance Thompson in the process. Go look at this here from one or two more angles before we go back live and set up here for the start of stage number 2. And again, for Van Schaik, it doesn't take much here. In fact, let's see if we can go to an onboard view here for Van Schaik and watch from his point of view. He's trying to follow the 11 here the best he can. He knows he can't push in the corner, but just that slight, and I mean slight checkup right there was all that it took to spark that wreck, get it going, and then obviously it was on from there. There's Kevin Winker sliding to a halt, and then obviously the big hit for Colton Hardy and company. Everybody in this wreck will be able to make it back out on track. They'll get these cars repaired. Man, Lance Thompson really had nowhere to go. I'll tell you what, Tyler Beverly, it looked like did a pretty good job of avoiding most of the incident right here. Watch this from his point of view as this is all going to unfold right in front of him. Maybe some contact at the start, maybe briefly with Michael Miller, and then, well, actually does get a little bit more, but right there was the big call, close call for Tyler Beverly. All right, let's go back live now. Up front, lights are off on the pace car. Michael Newman now being scored as your leader. David Traylor second with Michael Miller third. Mark Beverly fourth, and Haas Beverly currently rounding out your top 5. By the way, let's show you who we believe won this stage just based off where they were running as they all started wrecking. And looks like it's Eric Hegdahl well out in front. You can see it from that point of view, even as they all wreck behind. Hegdahl plenty out in front. So he takes stage 1 here at Daytona. See if we can bring him up for a quick word. Hey, Eric, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, but I got you.
Well, you take stage 1. I know you're getting ready to get back to green, but real quick, tell us about how crazy things were at the front right there coming to the end of the stage.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was pretty nuts. Couldn't really figure out what line to be in. But I was able to finally get clear to the outside lane and got to push from Charles to get out in front. And I don't know what happened behind, but was able to get the stage win because of it. But that worked out well. I know I'm pretty down in the points, so I need to gain a lot of points if I'm going to make that next round. So definitely a good start of the race.
Definitely still a realistic possibility with how well you ran early. Got a long ways to go. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see if we're talking to you at the end.
All right, thank you, man.
All right, there you go, Eric Hegdahl. And I said a long way to go, and I'm not kidding about that. I mean, only 22 laps in the books. And so that is going to leave us now with 78 laps to go here at Daytona. Good restart, though, up front for the 12 of Michael Newman. Remember, he blew his motor earlier on one of the opening laps of the race. And so now he is going to be running without a fast repair. So he's either got to stay up front or stay way in the back. Don't want to get caught in between and get caught up in an incident. And so now is when we'll have to start to talk about pit strategy. Obviously not yet, as they start to get 2x2 now down the backstretch. But keep it in mind now, we went green with 23 of 100 laps complete. 35 laps from now is when we would expect generally that first pit stop. That'll put us right around lap 58 or so. And then from there, they should be able to make it via a one stop, I do believe. So we'll keep an eye on that. But nonetheless, up front, Michael Newman still on the point. David Traylor trying to get even with the leaders here as he gets a bit of a shot from Mark Beverly off of 4. They stay 2x2. And it seems like right now, I don't know if it was with the way that last stage ended or what, but not quite as much pushing, more so just a little bit of aero pushing right now. These guys stay as close as they can, try to kind of pack some air onto the rear bumper and push that way instead of actually full-on shoving. But I think if you're Mark Beverly, you're going to have to push, and he knows that. And now he's going to get a little bit more aggressive here down the backstretch. Now there is some contact. Michael Miller's going to try to do the same. David Traylor now able to draw even with Michael Newman as they work through turn number 3. As they work off of turn 4. The speeds these guys are running, again, well over the 180, almost 190 mile an hour category as they work down the front stretch. And the speeds are only going to go up as the race goes on, because the more you push, the faster you can go. Just now a quarter of the way through this 100-lap, 250-mile race. We've had 2 cautions to speak of so far. The second one for incident, but ended your stage. Eric Hegdahl was your stage winner. But as he mentioned, with the way he's looking at points, he's going to need to do a little bit more than just simply win a stage, but the points always help. And speaking of points, since we're talking about how the stages went, or how the stage went rather, this is what point standings look like coming into the race here tonight. David Traylor currently leads in points. You can almost guarantee yourself that he will be moving on to the Championship 5 for a second season in a row to try to go and defend his title. Clinton Woodby currently second in points, Jesse Calloway third, Kevin Winker fourth, with Evan Schilling fifth in points. And you've got a tie for 6th between Mark Beverly and Charles Van Schaik. Colton Hardy is in 8th for points. Michael Newman 9th, and Eric Hegdahl, as he mentioned, currently last in the point standings. And it looks like, with where he currently runs, for Eric Hegdahl at least, he's about, I think he's about 34 points off of the leader. So that is quite a few, but certainly still doable. He doesn't have to get all the way to David Traylor. He just has to try to get himself into that Championship 5 to obviously have a chance at it. We know that the format for the playoffs is the highest points earning drivers move on to the next round, depending on, of course, how many drivers the next round accepts. But then for the Championship 5, it's just which one of the drivers finishes the highest up in that race. Still 2x2 now as we work across the line to complete lap 27. David Traylor up top. Him and Mark Beverly have drawn even a couple times, but still not been able to get clear, at least not as of yet. Michael Miller has been doing all the pushing on this inside. Felt like pretty much since after about the first 10 laps, once he got up here onto this inside, it feels like he's been doing all the pushing pretty much since that point. He's certainly going to have a lot of guys that might want to work with him at the end of the race if he keeps it up at the pace he's going right now. He has been a phenomenal pusher up to this point. And here's another phenomenal pusher, Haas Beverly in the 22 machine, who currently sits in that 4th spot. He's got the Asphalt Outlaws Racing logos around that car. And he might have an opportunity to make a move here, as that bottom's going to pull 2, almost 3 clear. And Haas Beverly still looking for his first win of the season. Could come here tonight. We'll have to keep an eye on it. David Traylor on the outside. And then Mark Beverly doing the pushing right now on the outside as well. Rick LePage in the 24. Almost involved in that second incident. The driver out of Ottawa able to continue. The only Canadian driver in the field here tonight. And he is also looking for his first win this season. We had quite a few drivers that you see in this race tonight that actually made it to the round of 16, but weren't able to advance through to the round of 10. 22 with a brief blink right there. But the point I'm trying to make with that is we still have a lot of guys that are hungry to prove that they should have had a better ending to their season than what they did. Obviously, making the playoffs in of itself has to feel like a win, but I think there's a couple drivers that, I mentioned it during the last broadcast, which I know was a few weeks ago, and that was if you could just make it through that first round here to the round of 10, you automatically knew you had a chance at making the Championship 5 just from this race right here. When you come to Daytona or Talladega, we mentioned everybody's got a chance because the draft is the great equalizer. Nobody's going to just pull away from anybody, and at the end, everybody's got a chance to make a move if they've got the right people to work with. And that is the beauty of it, the beauty of super speedway racing in general. And I know I also just mentioned last time we broadcasted, and that was obviously a few weeks ago, it felt like, at Auto Club, where Charles Van Schaik grabbed his first win. And I do currently have a job, well, it's more so an internship, obviously, that I am working this semester at college. And as part of that, some weeks I get the early morning shift, and some weeks I get the afternoon shift. The last couple of weeks, I have been on the afternoon shift. This week was the morning shift, so glad to be back. Unfortunately, next week, I will be back on the afternoon shift, so we'll miss these guys in the elimination race for the round of 10. The week after that is spring break for the college I go to, so I'll get a break. And what that means for you guys watching at home is that we will be back to broadcast the championship for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series. So looking forward to that. Should be a good one. Obviously, these guys put on a great show all season. Going to be rebranded next season. We'll get to more on that as we get towards the end. 77 of Michael Miller has pulled not just himself, but even the 24 of Rick LePage clear on that inside, but still no move yet. Once Haas Beverly jumped up, seems like this outside has been really struggling to get connected, and not 100% sure why, unless these two just can't seem to link up pushing-wise. Let's see. And David Traylor here ducking out for a little bit of air in the corner. Let's see if he's able to push this 22 on the straight as much as he would like to. Come off the corner, Traylor a little bit higher, gets himself a run, and then right here, tries to lock on. Now, with these cars, it's not like the trucks where you can slam draft down the straights. You have to really be smooth with the transition or the connection, if you will, when you first get locked onto the guy's bumper in front of you. Once you do that, then you can drop the hammer and really push. But if you try to slam draft a guy, it's really easy to get those back tires lifted up a little bit and get him sideways pointed in the wrong direction. Mark Beverly in the 55, you saw him make that jump down to the inside of the racetrack. That'll move him up to that 5th spot, now 3rd on the inside. Jesse Calloway also going to move up a few positions as the 4-car now up to 3rd on the outside. He is one of your round of 10 drivers who found victory lane this season. And what I would say for quite a few, including himself, was maybe a bit of a surprising scenario. I don't think he expected to get the job done at Kansas the way he did, but that win was what propelled him into this next round. And here he is with a good opportunity to potentially advance even further and lock himself into the championship 5. Again, he currently sits 3rd in points. Comfortable, but I wouldn't necessarily say safe, at least not yet. So a lot of things that could change here over the rest of not just tonight, but then, of course, next week as well. So as the 12 of Michael Newman continues to lead here at Daytona, you got the 22 of Haas Beverly in 2nd. And the fight for that final podium spot is on between David Traylor and Michael Miller. We'll keep all the action here as we go side by side. Stick with us at Daytona.
simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble around those Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. By the way, apologies if I had the race audio still on. Thought that I got things muted, but looks like I may not have. Either way, before we get back to full screen, did want to show you a brief look at the remaining races for the season for these guys. And again, it's only 2. North Wilkesboro next week. And again, that one going to be 185 laps at the famous short track. And then Homestead Miami Speedway will be your championship 5 race. 165 laps at Sunset. One of the most beautiful racetracks. That is going to be a good one. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series. And by the way, I mentioned the tip of the broadcast some brief issues yesterday, so if you wouldn't mind, if you're out there watching in the chat, please let me know if everything looks good tonight and sounds okay, or if anything seems too quiet, too blurry, laggy, anything of that nature. Certainly appreciate it. All right, back to the action on track. Up front, Jesse Calloway leads the way. The 12 of Michael Newman just behind him. You saw all the action nonstop while we went to break, and it was a little bit of racing, but not necessarily anything too out of the ordinary. Again, we're still not even at the halfway point in this 100-lap race. We still got a ways before we're going to actually get there, as we'll be crossing to complete lap 40 when they cross the line this next time. Colton Hardy, David Traylor, the 2 Loose Lug Nuts teammates, still working together on that high side right now. And they've got 2 of the Smokey and the Bandit cars of Tyler Beverly and Lance Thompson doing the pushing just behind him. But everybody else, at least for the time being, has all single-filed out to the bottom lane. And it seems like they may keep it this way for a little while just to try to click off some laps. Now, when we expect that next pit stop, which would be the first green flag pit stop, is again right around lap 58 or so. We're still at least 18 laps away from that point. But certainly something to consider. And once we start to get within 10 laps away from that pit stop, and then once you're really, I'd say within 5 laps, that's when it's desperation time to start trying to get down to the bottom of the racetrack. That is still about 10 to 13 laps away before we get to even that point. So still a lot of racing up front. Everybody trying to get their track position for now. If you save fuel, you might be able to stretch this a little bit further to about lap 60, but I don't really see the point. If you can make it 35 laps, it's a pretty solid one-stop strategy either way. And obviously that would be enough fuel for a couple overtime, at least 1, maybe 2 overtimes, I should say. And I wonder here on this outside for Colton Hardy if he's just starting to get maybe a little bit too hot here. He's been pushing for a while, trying to do everything he can to get his teammate Traylor to the front. They haven't had a whole bunch of support from the back. I know I mentioned that obviously Tyler Beverly, Lance Thompson are there, but if you're not connected and they're not close, it doesn't really help the momentum of this outside line much. And as it stands right now, they're about 1 to 2 car lengths off, at least Lance Thompson is. So that is certainly not helping the momentum of this outside line. We'll see if anybody else decides to take the risk and jump up there before we get to that first green flag stop. If you're looking for more Super Speedway action after this race, coming up next on PGR eSports is going to be Super Speedway Kings race number 1 at Talladega Super Speedway in the trucks. So make sure you go check that out. Series owner for PGR, Michael Trescaro, will be on the call for that. 41 of 100 laps now complete. And you're starting to see a couple of cars dart in and out of the lanes just a little bit. A couple guys look like they might be getting a little bit out of shape. And I think part of that reason could obviously be if the handling's starting to go away. These tires have certainly worn out a bit over the course of what is now starting to become a bit of a longer run here. And if we go another 10 to 15 laps as we get close to that fuel window, I think that everybody's going to really start to feel the wears. Whoa, watch out up top. That was the 45 of Tyler Beverly, who got a little bit tight off the corner, and that was almost our 3rd caution of the night. As that was a really good save right there. Tyler Beverly, it looked like he just got a little bit tight coming off the corner. He got into that outside wall, but then was able to get it off the wall. That was when it got sketchy. He almost came down and got somebody on the inside, but he kept it together. Keep going in the right direction, and man, just a lot of big runs, but really nowhere to go. David Traylor, though, up front might finally get the push he needs to get clear. You see they started to tighten it up a little bit. Lance Thompson got a little bit closer. Colton Hardy geared up for another big push. And oh, so close, but not quite enough for the two teammates. There's the side-by-side driver cam views for both David Traylor and Colton Hardy. And for Traylor here, he just holds the wheel as straight as he can. Colton Hardy tries to line him up, give him a big shot. I think these two are going to have to get really linked up, though, probably right as they get off of turn 2 and try to stay that way down the entirety of the super stretch to get clear. It just doesn't happen for him that time. Kevin Winker, Mark Beverly, 2 of your round of 10 drivers still hugging the bottom. Happy with where they run. And then obviously Michael Newman, who sits in second, the highest running currently, or excuse me, the second highest running of the round of 10 drivers. And then Jesse Calloway, your leader, leading the race and currently leading your round of 10 drivers. David Traylor continues to fight up top, further back in the field. A lot of single file action as you get towards the back. Overall, though, everybody is still hanging tough with this lead pack. First, all the way at the back here, you've got Lance Thompson, who is a lap down. That would explain it. I thought Lance was up here for position, but he's actually a lap down, so that would kind of tell us why he's not necessarily pushing, because if the caution comes out and he has any sort of an X, even if he didn't really make contact with somebody, he will not get his lap back. So he knows he's in the lucky dog spot. All he wants to do right now is stay with the lead pack, but not necessarily go up there and try to get too racy with him. Jonathan Herbert, the last car on the lead lap, currently sits in 18th. Single file back here with Dylan Paws and Joe Yates, along with Quentin Woodby. Actually, those two get side by side, but I think they'll sort it out here relatively quickly. Eric Hagdahl in 14th after winning that stage, currently just riding around, buying his time. Keith Prince up in 12th with Evan Schilling in 11th. And you've got Tyler Beverly in 10th with Haas Beverly 9th. Kevin Winker 8th, Mark Beverly in 7th. And then Charles Van Schaik in 6th, Michael Miller in 5th. Colton Hardy 4th with Michael Newman in 3rd. And then David Traylor and Jesse Calloway, your two leaders on the front row for now. When we get to that next pit stop, obviously I think we're going to see guys pitting in groups. But even since we went back green after that first stage, we haven't seen these guys get nearly as racy as what they did on the last couple laps of that first stage. And I know there's a long ways to go, but I wonder if some of the guys that are sitting further back, say an Eric Hagdahl, you see him just kind of hanging around, not even trying to make moves to get even further towards the front, never mind trying to get up to the lead. If maybe he's just trying to save a little bit of fuel right now, just enough so that when they come into pit here, he can take maybe a gallon or so less than all these leaders that are up here running side by side and try to jump some track position. That is certainly another strategy that you can try here at super speedways when it comes to green flag pit stops. And there you go, the 4 car of Jesse Calloway, who again continues to run as your leader. He has now led almost a couple handful of laps. He's got the Liquid Death Mountain Water paint scheme on his Chevy Camaro, the driver out of Granite Falls, North Carolina. Again, it felt like it was a, I don't want to say a bad season. It was certainly a consistent one, if nothing else. But it all changed when he got that win at Kansas in the first round of the playoffs. It seems like that's really boosted the confidence. And the performance was already there, but it seems like it's elevated even more now for Jesse Calloway. As if he could win here tonight, he would basically punch his ticket into that championship 5. Here comes David Traylor now, rolling back up on the outside. He's got another big push from the 97. Is this one enough to get clear? Yes, it is. David Traylor finally going to pull clear of the lead, and he is going to take it. Very slow and methodical move to the bottom there for the 54, but he had the room to do it. And so Colton Hardy finally able to push his teammate clear. Part of that may have been that Charles Van Schaik finally made his way up to that top lane to assist these two. Now for the 97 here of Hardy, he's going to try to get clear. I think Traylor might even cut him a bit of a break right here. Not quite enough to get at that time, at least not yet. Van Schaik, he'd probably like to get down as well. We'll have to see if Colton Hardy presents him with that option. Also, notice how much room they're giving each other right now through the corners. You've got one lane all the way on the bottom painting the yellow, the other lane up by the wall. Late in the race, you don't want to do that because that opens the middle lane for guys to try to split you. You want to stay nice and low and side drafting. Wow, Van Schaik. Looked like Colton Hardy was going to try to pull him to the front, which he did. But before he could drop down, Van Schaik made the crossover move, and he's going to take that spot. That will keep the teammates split up, at least momentarily. And for Colton Hardy, that may have been his best shot at going down right there. He may be stuck up top and have to go either further towards the back or settle to jump in line behind somebody right here before this first round pit stops. And so as they cross the line next time, that's when we'll be getting right around that 8 to 10 laps at most range before we see that first green flag pit stop. Kevin Winker further back, looks like he may be trying to make his way up towards the front. And how about Lance Thompson now? Talked about him being nervous and not really trying to race, but just more so ride with these guys in case we got a caution to get that lap back. But he's now in position of the lead pusher on this outside line, and Colton Hardy's probably screaming in his head, if you're not going to push me, get out of the way. I need some help up here, but he's just not getting it right now. Lance Thompson looks like he's trying to make some adjustments here, trying to help the 97 any way he can, but he's not making too much progress, at least not as it stands right now. That's also kind of causing a bit of a roadblock here for Mark Beverly. And even Kevin Winker in the 45 of Tyler Beverly, who can't go anywhere unless they try to split the 21, which would obviously kill the momentum of this outside line. So I think you're going to see Colton Hardy have to eventually drop back here right around anywhere between, I would say, Michael Newman and Haas Beverly, unless he can get enough of a push to get clear. Lance Thompson gave him a really good shove that time. Now he washes up the racetrack, and whoa, Thompson, another big call. These Xfinity cars on old tires, your wheel movements have to be very smooth. You can't jerk the wheel around. If that's what's going to happen, is what almost just happened right there to Lance, and that is getting loose, and he's still all over the place right now through the tri-oval. I kind of think Colton Hardy might be a little nervous, but I think if I'm Mark Beverly, I'm even more nervous right now watching that 21, knowing that there's not really anywhere I can go if he loses it, but knowing that I do want to try to get up here and see if I can get this lead before we get to the first round of stops. We're going to be coming up quick when we cross the line this time. That'll be about 6 or 7 laps to go before we see the first round of green flag pit stops. I'm not officially over halfway though now. 51. Going to be 52 of 100 laps complete as they cross the line this time. If you're just tuning in, we appreciate you hanging around with us here tonight. Hope everybody's enjoying their Friday evening, Friday night. As again, you're watching the QH Design 250 Daytona International Speedway. There's the 52 of 100 laps complete marker. So just 6 laps away. It's time to go, or time to start thinking about where you're going to jump in line. The outside has now decimated to just about 4 cars remaining. Everybody else has lined up single file on the bottom, and if they get bumper to bumper, it's going to be really tough for Mark Beverly to try to find a spot down. I don't think Lance Thompson cares too much about getting down, at least not yet. Colton Hardy gets another big push, though, right there from the 21. Thompson bails out a little bit as they work through 3 and 4. And as far as super speedway racing goes, we saw aggression early, and now we're seeing kind of what that more classic style of super speedway racing seems to entail, where they're still 2x2 trying to swap the leads, although we haven't had one since the 23 of them Shake took over. But at the same time, nobody's getting too aggressive yet. You can't win it on lap 53. Whether you have a fast pair or not, you need to try to make it to the end to have a shot at it. And so just, there's no point in getting aggressive. And even I think the talented, I mean, everybody in the series is talented, but I would say the veteran guys, I think that's the best way to put it. The guys who have been here for a while and the veterans of super speedway racing, they might know right now that if we get to this green flag stop, it could be their best friend, because we're going to probably lose at least a few cars, if not quite a few here in this first green flag stop. And that thins the pack out, obviously. The less guys you got to race around, the less that you got to beat at the end. Obviously, assuming it goes green all the way, which is still maybe a little bit of a stretch, but nonetheless, once they do make that pit stop, should set things up here to be one more stop after that. Is I was mistaken earlier. For some reason in my head I was thinking that they were going to lap 68, but they're actually, obviously, with only making it to 58, you do another 35 laps from that point. You still come up just a little bit shy. Now, if they can stretch it to lap 60 right here, then I think things get a little more interesting on maybe a couple guys can save enough fuel to try to make it on a one stop. But obviously, you would need at least a couple people to do that. Otherwise, you try to pull that strategy off by yourself, it's not going to work. It doesn't matter how much fuel you have. You've got to be in the draft here to make enough speed to keep up the leaders. And whoa, Mark Beverly tried to give a shove right there to Lance Thompson. It looked like that car got a little bit upset off of turn 4. 55 of 100 laps now complete as they work through the banking in turn 1 and 2. Again, remind you of your top 10 as they run right now. Colton Hardy in first with Charles Van Schaik in second on the outside. Mark Beverly back in third. Tyler Beverly fourth. David Traylor fifth. Michael Miller in sixth with Jesse Calloway seventh. You've got Michael Newman eighth. Kevin Winker ninth. And Haas Beverly currently rounding out your top 10. Well, the 21 just about got pushed out to the point, but again, he is not racing for track position. Lance Thompson is racing to be the first car one lap down, which as he stands, he's in that spot. Now, if he gets to the lead here and we get a caution out back, then that puts him in front of the leaders. He automatically is back on the lead lap. He doesn't have to worry about getting the lucky dog or a wave around. So maybe that's what he's trying to do, see if he can get his lap back the hard way right here. Lance Thompson, you certainly like to see what he's trying to make happen here, but obviously Mark Beverly not going to cut him too many breaks here, saying, listen, I'm up here racing for the lead. I know you're racing to keep your lap, but if you're not going to hold a steady wheel, I'm not going to be able to push you. And looks like Thompson going to get clear of the bottom. And so as he jumps down in front of the 97 of Hardy, that's going to kind of put a bit of a pick on that inside line, at least for the moment. We'll see how quickly they can find a way to push clear and try to jump up to get around. The 97 of Colton Hardy is the lead pusher on the inside right now. As they cross the start-finish line, we will now see 58 of 100 laps in the books, and that will give us just 44 laps to go here at Daytona. When they cross the line next time, it'll be 43. And now we're at that point where I think we're going to see these green flag stops, and anywhere from about the next 2 to 5 at most laps. I think 5 might be stretching it. I would say the next maybe 2 to 4 laps is when we're going to see this first round of green flag stops. Lance Thompson, we'll see if he goes in with everybody else or if he stays out an extra lap. The 55, Mark Beverly, though, getting clear to the bottom is really important for him right here, because now he's going to have a chance to get down when he's ready without having to worry about trying to get to the inside first. And so 58 of 100 complete, and we didn't see any pit stops that time. Everybody stayed out. Thought for sure we'd get at least one taker, but we do not. So as everybody stays out, can they maybe stretch this here to lap 60? If they do so, that would be 30, maybe right around 37, 38 laps on fuel. And if you can stretch it that far, I mean, heck, you might as well try to stretch it to lap 60 and then try to stretch it another 40 laps once you go into the pits here. And obviously that would make it a one stop. We'll see if anybody goes with that strategy. Bottom really lost its mojo that time through 3 and 4, and that's going to allow Michael Miller and Kevin Winker to get clear. Winker's going to pull down to the bottom. Do we see a pit stop this time? And again, no, we do not. Everybody continues to stay out for now. But still got to think that they're planning on pitting soon. In fact, everybody now has shuffled down to the inside single file. And I think that they're probably going to keep it that way now until they get some fuel and potentially some new tires. Now, the time that you have here for this pit stop, 95% fuel, in theory, you should have enough time to take 4 tires. If you don't, it's going to say get ready, because the handling is going to be really, really tricky. We'll have to see what everybody decides to do now as they work into turn 3. Still a long, snake-like single-file line here at Daytona. Will we see the peel-off for pit stops this time? And if so, can everybody keep it clean off of turn 4? And again, nobody brings it down. So as they stay out now, they're going to make it around to lap 60. This may very well turn into a one-stop. You know, I looked at, obviously, the fuel percentage before the race started and just our regular race info, unless it was something different here tonight, but it's not. 95% fuel, same as it is every week. And again, these Xfinity cars on full fuel, which is only 5% more, it seems like go right around lap 40 or 40 laps or so on a tank. But these guys, again, proven to go longer than that if they keep it up, but I don't think they can. At some point, they're going to have to give. Somebody is. It's just a matter of who all follows and who all decides to risk it and try to stay out for yet another lap. So the 61, 100 laps complete, and do we see some pit stops further back here? And again, we do not. Still, nobody brings it down up front. Jonathan Herbert, who was getting ready to get lapped, looks like he's going to bring it down for his stop. And I believe he's going to take 4 tires and fuel. Yep, certainly looks that way. You see the rights go up on the 88 of Herbert, and then next up you'll see the lefts go up. So that's how Herbert's luck has gone tonight, with just not being able to catch much of a break. But obviously in the pits now, and when he comes back out, he'll probably be at least 1, if not 2 laps down, but hoping for a big break to potentially put him back into it once we get towards the end of this one. Kevin Winker still leads. He got the 45 of Tyler Beverly second, the 55 of Mark Beverly currently in third, Michael Miller in fourth, and there's Eric Hegdahl and Clinton Woodby. That was one of the strategies I was going to mention, but first, Pit stops, here we go. Can everybody get in clean? So far, so good. A little bit of a lockup out back, but don't think that's much of an issue yet. Bigger lockup from the 12 of Michael Newman. But they all get down to speed. Boy, that was a heck of a job by everybody to not get into each other and get down to pit road speed with a group that big. But what I was getting ready to mention is these guys will take 4 tires and fuel before they bring it back out. Is Eric Hegdahl, you just saw him now. He jumped to that outside. They went right to the front. I think part of that is the strategy of just saving as much as you can now and having to hopefully take less to make it to the end, because obviously you saved while you were out there. Does it always work? Maybe in practice, not necessarily in the actual race. We'll have to see if it works out that way, though. And, whoa, man, I was watching there. That was a big wiggle. We're going to see another peel-off here of pit stops, and looks like it's going to be let in this time. Whoa, Dylan Paz, way too hot into the pits. He overshoots the commitment cone. That's going to be a penalty, but it looked like the 45 machine, Tyler Beverly, led the field down. Mark Beverly, Joe Yakes, along with Haas Beverly and a couple of others, all pit with this group. So they'll go back out with right around 37 laps to go, maybe 36, depending on how quickly they are able to get back out there. Eric Hegdahl, Clinton Woodby, though, still enough fuel to go around. I mean, I got to think these guys are running on fumes, though. I don't know if they're going to be able to quite make it around another one at a track that's 2.5 miles in length, where if you start sputtering, it is a bad, bad feeling, because you know it's going to be tough to get back to where you were, at least in terms of your pit box. And so here we go, Clinton Woodby and Evan Schilling, and of course Eric Hegdahl all peeling out to the pits. And as they make their way down to pit road speed, that is 2 Toyotas and a Chevy that are working together. Now these guys are going to have to be really quick here with their pit stop, because if they're not out of the box clean and they're not able to get back rolling, they are going to lose this lead draft. So we'll have to see here for Evan Schilling and the 11 of Eric Hegdahl, how quickly can they get back going? And well, this isn't a good sign. Hegdahl is sitting in the pits for quite a while, but there you go. Maybe he was just waiting on a lot of fuel, had to make sure it was filled up all the way. As sure enough, here comes Clinton Woodby. And it looks like Evan Schilling going to follow those two out as well. As whoa, watch out up front. A little bit of 3 wide here. Colton Hardy's looking to the top of the 42 of Kevin Winker, who's now going to drop low. And while all that's going on right there, these guys trying to get back up to speed. This could be interesting. I'm curious if they can maybe try to keep the lead right here. There's the pack roaring off at turn number 2. I'll tell you what, if they can get up to speed quick enough and they do enough pushing, it's possible. Although I don't think they're quite going to be able to get that organized that quickly right now. At least not with the way things are looking. 64, though, of 100 laps in the books. And Eric Hegdahl, your current leader. Clinton Woodby second. And Evan Schilling in third. There's the rest of that lead pack bearing down on these 3. They will catch up, and when they do, I think it's going to be more so a question of where do you decide to take the run here. If you're Kevin Winker, and will anybody try to block it? Woodby goes high. Now he goes back low. That's going to split the lappers up here a bit. With Herbert being high, they're going to have to split everywhere. Now Winker goes back to the middle. And so he kind of just set basically a 3-lane pick right there. Didn't give anybody much of a chance to try to do anything. So as the 42 of Kevin Winker stays to the top of the racetrack now, trying to get some track position now that everybody's got full fuel and brand new tires. And the one out of shape for the back, that's David Traylor, but he holds on, and so we stay green. 65 of 100 laps complete. Eric Hegdahl leads at Daytona. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
3x3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it at Talladega.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. 70 of 100 laps complete for the QH Design 250. And these guys starting to get a little bit more racy up front. Haas Beverly maybe looking 3 wide right there on the 88 of Jonathan Herbert, who has had a phenomenal run earlier in the race, but not right now. That's why he's getting aggressive, because he needs to get this lap back, but he's not the only one racing for it. Dylan Paz is in the mix. And, of course, Lance Thompson. So right now, Jonathan Herbert is in position to grab that lucky dog. But you see Dylan Paz at the back of this pack. That's one of the cars he's racing for. Lance Thompson with a separate group. But now, just as I said, things were getting exciting. Looks like we're going to start to calm it down just a little bit again now with under 30 laps to go here at Daytona. 25 to go. Action's really going to start to pick up. And from what we based fuel mileage off of at the end of that first one when everybody came in, they should all be good to go the rest of the way. I don't see another pit stop unless, obviously, if we get a caution, maybe it's an option for a few drivers. But right now, this is all about setting yourself up for track position. We know there's a possibility that things could start to get crazy at the end. We could start to see some cautions. So get your track position now. Here we go. Colton Hardy going to jump to the outside. He'll get some help from the 88 of Herbert. And again, Jonathan Herbert right now, not for position. It's the battle for that lucky dog spot. Dylan Paz currently sitting at the back of this pack. And just as kind of an extension on that note, the reason it's so important right now that these guys are fighting for the lucky dog over just trying to get the free passes, there's also the possibility that none of these leaders pit, or at least one of them doesn't pit, if we do get a late caution. And so therefore, if you're not the lucky dog and not all the leaders pit, you're not going to be able to get that wave around. So you got to fight for it if you're going to want a chance at it at the end. And obviously, Jonathan Herbert, a very seasoned veteran when it comes to super speedway racing. We see him a lot in PGR and a lot of the other money racing series. And so looking to see if he can grab his first win of the season here tonight for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing drivers. Going back here to a few of our onboard views here tonight. Haven't got to see David Traylor or Colton Hardy here in a little bit, but they have been hanging right around at the front. And, you know, really one of the things that I should mention is that green flag sequence actually went really, really well. We didn't have a ton of guys lose the lead pack. Not nearly as many as I thought would. And so with keeping most of that group together, you're going to have a lot more energy in this pack as we get towards the end of things. There's the 11 of Eric Hegdahl. As right now, the position he's in, he would love to get clear of this outside to try to make a move. Nothing doing it just yet, though. The bottom continues to push and shove. Kevin Winker leads him into turn 3. He's getting pushed by the 77 of Michael Miller, who, again, seems like every time that we have called his name here tonight, he has been in second as the lead pusher. Continues to run that way now. Jesse Calloway, one of the drivers that obviously lost the lead pack here via pit stops, and so he will now join the cars that are a lap down. He should be able to tag on with this pack. That puts 4 total cars a lap down with Jonathan Herbert. And obviously now Jesse Calloway, and then of course Dylan Paz, all fighting in this lead pack to try to be that lucky dog candidate if we were to get a late caution. So if you're Kevin Winker, I think you're probably feeling okay right now that Michael Miller is not necessarily going to try to make a move. Question's going to be who behind him tries to make that move first. We're going to be coming up on 25 laps to go here in just a couple laps. And once we get to that point, I feel like as a driver, that's where you really start to lock it in a little bit. And you see 25 laps to go. Now, granted, that's a lot longer of a distance here than it is at, say, obviously, what it's going to be next week at North Wilkesboro. Obviously, 25 laps, still 50 miles, but it's just one of those things where I feel like when you wait till the end, especially in these Xfinity cars where it takes a minute to generate the run, when you wait to the end, it's just too tough to execute everything to perfection, which is usually what you need to do to win here, because there's so many things that can go wrong and only a few things that can really go right when you try to start making moves 3, 4 wide, blocking, pushing, and shoving. And to make those few things that can go right possible, you've got to be in position when it's time to make those moves happen later. Now, we saw Kevin Winker doing a bit of blocking for the stage, and he was doing a pretty stout job of it. And so obviously he lost that lead and they had a bit of a wreck out back, but if he's up front the way he is right now at the end, you know he's not just going to hand it over. He will be blocking for it, not only because he wants to grab a win here at Daytona, but also because he wants to advance to that Championship 5, and he's got a great opportunity in doing that if he gets the win here tonight. Well, let's show you what that track temp is looking like. Again, we talked about it earlier, and so far, things have not changed much. In fact, it's actually cooled down just a little bit. And then obviously outside in the sim, about 7:30, that's why you see the sun starting to set here at virtual Daytona International Speedway, and speed's starting to pick up. We're starting to see guys creep into the 190s at the end of these straightaways with all the pushing and shoving that they're doing. And it'll now be officially 24 laps to go here at Daytona. And I know it's a long ways away, but just keep it in the back of your mind that the race is not official until we get to the white flag. So if we get a caution late in this race and we're not to the white flag, race is not just going to end under caution. So for now, just keep that in the back of your mind. We still got a ways to go before we get to that point. And again, not expecting another pit stop. It's just going to be all about trying to see what you can do staying up front here for these next 20 laps or so until we really get down to the pay window. The last couple of laps. Well, something that we haven't got to do in a while is crank it up. How about here tonight at Daytona? Best track to do it at. Here we go. All right, and that'll wrap up our Crank It Up segment here tonight. I hope everybody did enjoy, as now 21 laps to go in both lanes, about even in terms of help. It's all going to be about which one can get organized quicker As Jonathan Herbert on the outside trying to do some pushing. Now you see a couple cars fishtailing out back. Joe Yates, David Traylor. That's two of the Loose Lugnuts teammates. Watch to see if they get linked up and try to go to the third lane at some point. Still have not seen too many moves, at least not yet, in terms of anybody trying to get that third lane to work. Now, what you have seen is this middle line, well, I guess I should say what is this outside line, has kind of went from a top lane more so to a middle lane. Colton Hardy trying to do a little bit of side drafting to the bottom right now. Kevin Winker has not quite gone into full blocking mode, at least not yet. But as the laps continue to click off, the closer we get to the end, the more aggressive things are going to get. For the 42 of Kevin Winker, still looking for his first win of the season. And again, what better of a track to get it at than Daytona International Speedway? Still very well a possibility, and can't count out Keith Prince either in the 3-car. We mentioned him earlier. He won his first race this season at Talladega Super Speedway in the latter half of the season. He's still in this lead pack, so watch for him to potentially be one of the drivers that tries to go out and look 3 wide. And it'll now be officially under 20 laps to go as we see 19 remaining at Daytona. Up front, Colton Hardy, Kevin Winker side by side for the lead as they climb the banking into turn number 1. And for Colton Hardy, at what point is, whoa, watch out back. Some trouble. They're going to stack up here a little bit. Haas Beverly looked like he was getting ready to get split by Joe Yakes. Quickly moved back down. It checked up the line. But David Traylor, Jesse Calloway, good awareness right there to cut those guys some room, give them a break, and keep things clean up front. But man, just the way they're going right now, and they're only 2 by 2. I would be shocked if this race went green all the way the rest of the way. I mean, they're just, the pushing and shoving's getting really aggressive, which, I mean, it's what you got to do, but usually that starts to become a ticking time bomb. Eventually something's going to have to give. It's just going to be more so a question of when and where. Is look at the speed now for Kevin Winker down the front stretch. Back into the 190s. In fact, he'll hit 191 just before climbing the banking into turn number 1. As Wu couple in the wall further back. Can they all save it this time? Callaway saves it again. Joe Yakes up in the third lane. He might have been into the wall. Clinton Woodby has to go down low. And that's going to break up the energy further back in this pack. And actually, it looks like it's going to have the biggest impact on that outside line. There's still 4 cars deep at the moment. But the inside has more help overall. The 12 of Michael Newman still in position. He has led himself a fair amount of laps here tonight. Just 18 to go here. Kevin Winker on the bottom, Colton Hardy up top. And for Hardy, notice how when he gets into the corners, that's really where he kind of ducks that car down a little bit. He tries to grab even just a little bit of a side draft, anything, to try to help pull that 42 car back. Because again, if you're on the inside line, you get the advantage in the corners. And if you're on the outside, you get the advantage on the straight. So the idea is to side draft the inside line in the corners and then get the big run down the straights. Kevin Winker, though, still very comfortable on the bottom. Michael Miller has not made a move to try to grab the lead once this race, at least not that I remember. He has done nothing but been a loyal pusher. And it seems like he's arguably been one of the best, if not the best pusher so far here tonight. But the 88 of Jonathan Herbert looks like he wants to challenge that. As is he going to try to split the 97? No, just gets a little bit wide off of turn 4. Eric Hegdahl cuts him a break, and he quickly is able to jump back down in line. Now it is officially just 16 laps to go. Trouble. The 22 of Haas Beverly into the outside wall. He collects David Traylor. They try to gather it up, and it looks like they will. It doesn't seem to draw the caution. We're going to stay green for now. How bad is the damage to the 54? How bad is the damage to the 22? Can these two get linked back up and try to get back to the front right here? I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. It looks like they have both definitely lost the pack by a severe margin, but there's 4 cars back here. If they get organized quick enough, it is still possible here. David Traylor, I don't see much damage. A little bit there on the left front, but again, nothing too bad. Let's go see what happened here to David Traylor and Haas Beverly. They get tangled up. This was actually coming out of the tri-oval. Bit of an interesting area to see it happen at. Back this all the way up a lap to where it happens. All right, so here we go. We're going to go to the chop review for this first and break it down from there. All right, so here you go. Watch David Traylor. He's in the yellow and black car. And is he going to look 3 wide here on Haas Beverly? I think he is. There he goes to jump up top. He's there, and well, that was kind of an interesting one. Because, again, Haas doesn't really... I think Haas comes up, but I don't know if he actually hits him first or if The pressure puts trailer on the wall first, and then there's contact. Let's see. We'll play it slow. You see at that point, trailer's there. He's above the white line. He's still above the white line, and I will say Haas does move up the track here a bit. You can see as once trailer first gets to him, right about there, Haas has his left sides just below the seam, and then right about here, Haas has his left sides above the seam. So he's definitely moving up a little bit more than trailer would be moving down. I don't think trailer really is moving down. But then right there, I think there may have been just a little bit of right rear, left front netcode contact that gets trailer's left front shot up into the outside wall. Now that he's in the wall, it looks like Haas Beverly's still working up the track, and eventually there's just no more room up there. Haas gets into the left front of trailer, and yeah, I mean, at this point, David's in the wall. He can't go any higher. And once Haas gets into the left front at this point, it's on from there as caution is out. We'll go back to it here in just a moment. I'll finish showing you what happened right there. So that's the bad break for those two. Is up front now. We're going to have a bad break for a couple more. You wondered when the ticking time bomb was going to explode. Well, it looks like it finally has. The 45, Tyler Beverly, has heavy damage to that race car as he tries to limp it around here, get back up to speed in turn one. I will say that's the break that David Traylor, Haas Beverly, Joe Yakes, and a few others needed, as this will now give us a restart inside 10 laps to go. Let's go back and look at what brings out now officially. I think it was your third yellow of the night. Again, we had a pretty long green flag run right there up to this point. So Tyler Beverly gets himself up front here, battling for the lead. And where does this run come from the 45? That's what I'm curious about. I think he was back here riding in line somewhere. He was. So this developed about a lap ago with the 45 jumping out of line, and Colton Hardy likes what he sees. I mean, as soon as the 45 jumps out, Hardy knows he can push. So he immediately is going to get up here to the back bumper, and they slowly but surely are going to make progress all the way up to the front before something eventually goes south. Let's see what happens here as they get onto the backstretch. Hardy gets him a little bit offset. No harm, no foul there. Looking to line him back up. Gives him a good push down the backstretch. A little bit offset right here, and then as he gets in the corner, he backs off. No issues there. Or was it maybe next lap here? I could have swore it was this lap coming off of 4. Is that what's going to happen? Yes, it is. Man, just it's a little bit too early of a push for Hardy, I have a feeling here. It's right as they're coming off the corner. And on top of that, it's, again, already a really sketchy area to push because that's where the car is transitioning off the banking. So it unloads, or as a lot of people like to describe it, it gets really light. There's not a whole lot of downforce in the car at that point. And that's right as Haas Beverly pushes him, or excuse me, not Haas Beverly, I apologize, Colton Hardy goes to push him. Hardy pushes him just a little bit offset to the right, and that was probably kind of the last ingredient needed. Was not only was it a dicey spot, but it was a little bit offset to the right there. It's just enough to shoot that 45 car down into the 77 of Michael Miller. Man, that's a tough break. Miller was doing a heck of a job here tonight and gets involved in that. I don't know how much damage he gets, but even just getting involved is going to be a major setback for him after the great run that he had been putting together. And once this wreck starts, it's on. Here we go. So watch it from the oncoming view. 77 back down the racetrack. He's going to get into the 55 of Mark Beverly. Colton Hardy takes a pretty major hit right there as he slides through the grass. And then Eric Hegdahl with some contact, the 4 Jesse Calloway. And this is probably about a handful or so of your playoff drivers that all get a piece of this. There's Colton Hardy sliding down through the grass. The 3 of Keith Prince, nowhere to go. Looks like, I believe that was Clinton Woodby, took a detour down the pits to make sure that he missed all of it. And it just happened so quick. You know, Hardy, again, had been doing such a good job of pushing the 45 to the front. Right there, just a little too early. And then obviously at that point, nothing Colton Hardy can do. Once the wreck starts, gets tagged in the rear pretty hard. And then goes for a slide here through the grass. And that may unfortunately end his night. It may end a couple of nights. Many of the drivers that had to use fast repairs in that last incident, and then obviously have to use one right here. One more look at this here before we go back live. Watch it from our drone cam. And that would, I think, classify as the big one. What we've had here tonight. Michael Miller currently sitting in the pits as well from what it's being scored as right now. So the 77 maybe getting some more damage repaired. But back up front we go as the lights on the pace car are off. And Charles Van Schaik currently being scored as your leader on the outside line. Kevin Winker, the leader on the inside. And it's Evan Schilling back in row 2 alongside Michael Newman, Mark Beverly, Joe Yakes in row 3 with Eric Hegdahl, David Traylor row 4, and then Haas Beverly and Rick LePage back in row number 5. And it's going to officially be 10 laps to go. We grab the green flag right here. And that will translate to just about 25 miles or so remaining here at Daytona. If you're just tuning in, we appreciate you being here. Hope that you are having, again, a good Friday night as we watch the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series guys continue to duel it out here at none other than the World Center of Racing. We've seen 3 cautions so far. An incident early on with Michael Newman blowing a motor and some contact as everybody tried to miss it, spun out Mark Beverly. Second incident came on the final lap of stage number 1. That was our first real wreck that took out a few drivers that went and used their fast repair. Eric Hegdahl got the stage 1 win, and then we went green all the way up to this caution that we are just about ready to have finished cleaned up right now. And that was the big one that struck coming off turn 4. Colton Hardy, slight contact to Tyler Beverly, to the back of his bumper, got him turned around, and rest is history. So Mark Beverly in the 55 now with a big opportunity himself. Kevin Winker, I'm telling you, if I had to pick a favorite, he might be that favorite right now. He's going to be a tough pass. With 10 laps to go, and he just lost maybe his most loyal pusher that he's had all night. I think he's getting ready to get a little bit aggressive right here. It might be what he has to do to try to win this thing. 10-lap sprint to decide it at Daytona. Who wants a ticket to the Championship 5? Green flag back in the air. And it's a good restart for the 42 of Kevin Winker, but Van Schaik's able to match him pretty well. They'll race off through the gears into turn number 1. Van Schaik with the slight advantage, but not quite able to get clear. That outside, though, way more organized right now than the inside. Evan Schilling nowhere close. Kevin Winker's got to be saying, where is my help? But he's not going to get it, and as they roll down the super stretch outside, much more connected. Van Schaik's going to clear. Can Michael Newman potentially also clear? The help is still not to the back bumper of Winker on the inside. That'll pull 2 clear by the time they get to turn 3. Michael Newman's got the spot, but he doesn't drop down yet. Man, I really would go down if I was Newman, but he seems to like the outside. He'll let Van Schaik go down instead. They'll draw back to 2x2. Van Schaik looking for a block up top. Newman sticks with him as Mark Beverly's got to check up. Now they really got to check up out back. And they get into, oh man, that was a close one as they got back into Tyler Beverly and Lance Thompson, but they all hold it together. And anytime you see a checkup up front, you always worry about how far back it's going to go. Kevin Winker, though, now leads the bottom. He's got a little bit more help. Evan Schilling, though, is going to have to get closer for this inside to make any progress. The 18, though, there you go. That's your culprit. Front end damage. You wonder if it's the reason that he can't quite pull up to the back bumper of Kevin Winker. And so if you're Winker right now, I mean, what else can you do? I think he's going to have to hope that somebody gets in front of him. He can push clear and then jump to the outside and try to set the move up that way. Otherwise, I just don't know what else he can really try to make happen at this point. So, by the way, a couple of the cars that were heavily damaged in that last wreck still out here running. Nonetheless, Colton Hardy, one of them, managed to keep himself on the lead lap and sticking with the draft as they run. But you can see some of these stack-ups developing. It's been more so on the outside, and eventually I think one of these could lead to our 4th caution of the night. Kevin Winker doing everything he can. I mean, you see him washing up the banking, trying to side draft anything to keep this outside line relatively even as he continues to struggle to find any sort of help right now from Evan Schilling. And I'll tell you what, if I was Evan, though, I'm taking notes of this. If we get another caution, I may have to go in to try to fix that. I mean, if it's hindering him this much, he's okay in draft, but man, if you can't push a guy, it's going to really hurt your chances on the last lap. Nonetheless, though, Schilling continues on. He's now going to get pushed from Eric Hegdahl out back, who's trying everything just to get that lane rolling a little bit. And Schaik continues to lead, and he sees that the bottom has not been able to get much momentum going, so he stays up top. But I think if anybody, whether it's Newman, Van Schaik, even if Mark Beverly gets clear, if anybody jumps in front of this 42, then inside is going to roll again, and there's that move. The 23 Van Schaik jumps down. Now watch for Kevin Winker here. If he gets clear, well, didn't get the opportunity to, and now they're going to fan out 3 wide down the super stretch. Hold on now as up top, Joe Yakes. They are squeezing down on the 11 of Eric Hegdahl as they work through turn number 3. Hegdahl, as he got maybe a little bit of help right here from Haas Beverly. It looks like he might get it. Mark Beverly gets a little loose up top. Now Eric Hegdahl going to get clear of the 42 of Kevin Winker. And they'll try to line back up here and see if they can get something going on this inside now that you've got it mixed up a little bit. Mark Beverly looks to the middle. Just 6 laps to go now. Haas Beverly trying to get linked up with his teammate, but the 55 still all alone in that middle lane. What's the 12 of Michael Newman going to do? He'll stay up top for now. Van Schaken work down the middle. There's trouble out back. Caution is out. Can they all save it, or did they wreck further back? No, they wreck further back. The 88 of Jonathan Herbert's in it. The 21 of Lance Thompson's in it. And I think we had one more. I was trying to figure out exactly who it was. Oh, Evan Schilling is involved, and somebody lost a hood. I think that's Rick LePage's hood. Is it indeed? Yes, it is. Rick LePage missing the entire engine cover for his Toyota Supra. So now we'll see a restart. I don't think we're quite going to go to overtime, but it may very well be a natural green-white checkered right here to decide this one. Man, it was chaotic up front, but I think that actually for a couple of the leaders, mostly Kevin Winker, he may not mind that caution, because with the damage that Schilling had, it was just making it way too difficult for him to really do much. And for Evan Schilling back here, talked about that damage. As soon as he got split, I mean, you could see that front nose damage at a track where aero is so important just immediately sends him to the back here in a hurry, and everybody going around, he can't seem to find a drafting partner. And as they get through the corner here, where does everything go wrong? Ooh, the 45. Tyler Beverly gets up into the outside wall, and then Jesse Calloway gets into him. And then eventually Lance Thompson is going to follow him, and then that's where the wreck really kind of starts from. So what gets Tyler Beverly into the outside wall? I think he's just going to go up here and get into the outside wall by himself. As they get into the corner right here, he's already entering on that top lane. And sometimes a little bit of dirty air up there. Haas Beverly creeping up a little bit. I don't know if there was a small bit of netcode between the two or what, but right there, something gets that 45 car a little bit tight and into the outside wall. In fact, I do want to watch this from his cockpit view. That's hard to say. I don't know if I see anything shoot the wheel right. He may have just drifted up there a little bit. Either way, watch what happens once he gets into this outside wall. See, there's the 4 Jesse Calloway. Nowhere to really go. You can't just yank the car to the left. It's not that simple. Runs up on him and tries to get low. Can't quite make it. Runs into the left rear. That checks him up. And then here comes the 21 of Lance Thompson, obviously with nowhere to go. The contact sends him down the track. Evan Schilling also nowhere to go. He gets up into Rick LePage, Jonathan Herbert. And then there's Colton Hardy, who also had nowhere to go. He runs into Lance Thompson. So here's another angle. That's what we'll go all the way back to this yellow here for Evan Schilling. And as he gets sent back up the racetrack, there's the big hit for Rick LePage. And man, Jonathan Herbert actually gets wedged up a little bit as they stay on the outside wall, eventually rolling back down. That's going to go down as about a 4 or 5 car incident in tally once things are all said and done. A couple of really big hits right there for Colton Hardy. Of course, he already had damage, but kind of insult to injury. And then for Schilling, if he's got a fast spare, he's certainly going to have to go take it now. Tough break for Rick LePage and Lance Thompson. 2 innocent bystanders in that one. So 4 laps to go currently. If the lights go off on the pace car this time, then we will see a natural green-white checkered. If they don't, then we will head to our first overtime attempt. Regardless of which one it is, it's going to be a it's going to be a 2-lap shootout to decide the winner here at Daytona. Before we get ready for that, we're going to go take a quick break. Get yourself a drink, get yourself some popcorn. You're not going to want to miss the finish. Stick with us at Daytona.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
All right, welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. It's going to be a natural green-white checkered two-lap shootout style to decide it. Remember, the leader has got to make it to the white flag for the race to be official. Can Charles Van Schaik grab his second win of the season? Can Michael Newman grab his first win of the season? Green flag back in the air. 2 laps to go at Daytona. And it's a good restart for the inside line. Michael Newman not going to have much to say about Van Schaik being able to jump in line right out of the gate just about. For Van Schaik here rolling around the bottom, there's going to be a lot of runs behind him, and he's going to have to figure out which ones he wants to block. No organization yet, though. Kevin Winker and Mark Beverly trying to get connected near the back. Oh, what a move by Michael Newman. Jumps up the track. Watch out on the bottom. Here comes Joe Yakes. He'll give a shot to Van Schaik. 2x2 down the super stretch as Michael Newman goes to the lead in turn 3. Mark Beverly looking a lane lower. Van Schaik not going to give him the room, though. Here comes Kevin Winker out back. Contact, one in the wall. Are they going to save it? Clinton Woodby. Oh, my goodness. How did they hold on? Off of turn 4. Can they all make it to the white flag to make the race official? Yes, they do. 1 lap to go at Daytona. Side by side at the front of the pack. Charles Van Schaik, the 12 of Michael Newman. Still drag race into turn number 1. Eric Hegdahl doing the pushing on the outside, and Mark Beverly doing all the pushing on the inside. And will anybody try to make a third lane if Hegdahl's going to go? When will he go? If Michael Newman gets clear to the bottom, what's he going to do? Does he drop down, or does he stay where he is? Man, they are bumper to bumper. 4 cars deep in each one of the lanes. Final time down the super stretch. Into turn 3, it is still a dead heat between Michael Newman and Charles Van Schaik. Van Schaik going to start to pull ahead here. Mark Beverly gives him enough of a run. What's he going to do with it off of turn 4? Now they start to make contact. They're going to wreck out back. No run from out back. Does Beverly have a move to make? He does, but it's not enough. Charles Van Schaik's going to grab his second win of the season at Daytona, and he will lock himself into the championship 5. Mark Beverly takes home second. Dylan Paz brings home a podium after falling a lap down. How about that for a finish? Oh my goodness. Charles Van Schaik grabs his second win. And boy, I need a minute to catch my breath after that one. If they would have stayed lined up coming off of turn 4, there was a couple drivers that had a really big chance at that one. But instead, it ends with the 23 of Van Schaik, who seems like couldn't find victory lane to save his life. Everything he kept doing ended with a second or third place finish. Finally got that first win just a couple weeks ago at Auto Club, and here he is now grabbing his second win in the round of 10, and probably the most important one of all because it is going to lock himself into the championship 5. He'll bring it around to burn it down. Van Schaik is your winner of the QH Design 250 here at Daytona. As he continues to celebrate, let's look at your finishing results here on the night. Again, Charles Van Schaik, your race winner. Mark Beverly, great run for him, takes home second with Dylan Paz back in third. Clinton Woodby finishes 4th, Michael Miller in 5th, Eric Hegdahl in 6th, Tyler Beverly in 7th. And then you've got Kevin Winker in 8th, Joe Yakes 9th, and Michael Newman rounding out your top 10. Colton Hardy finishes 11th, Keith Prince in 12th, with Haas Beverly in 13th. And then back in that 14th spot here tonight, you've got Rick LePage, David Traylor 15th, Jesse Calloway in 16th, with Jonathan Herbert back in 17th. 18th is Lance Thompson, with Evan Schilling rounding out the field. He finishes in 19th. All right, before we go grab your top 3 for interviews, I do want to go back and take one look at this finish right here, as kind of all heck broke loose here off of turn 4, as it usually does here at Daytona. And for Newman, he's side drafting for all it's worth. I mean, he's got to do it, and eventually they start to get stuck together right there, it looks like. And Van Schaik thought about going up to the top, but boy, it was a good decision to go right back to the bottom, because that top just seems to fall apart right here. And then they start wrecking. As soon as they wreck out back, it's all Beverly and Van Schaik. And it was Talladega. I think Beverly's got a shot at him, but here at Daytona, just not enough time. Van Schaik, with all the run he needs, crosses the stripe first, and again collects win number 2 here on the season. All right, we're going to go grab your top 3 for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Daytona. All right, welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Going to start first here tonight with your race winner, and it's none other than the 23 of Charles Van Schaik. Charles, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy. And let me make sure I get you unmuted here. Apologize for that. Well, Charles, it's your second win of the season. It comes at a super speedway. First of all, take us through what was going through your mind there on the last lap. How do you make the decisions on what lane to go with? And off of 4, looked like for a second you thought about going up, you come back down, and that ends up being the race-winning move.
Yeah, I had my teammates there before the last caution, and then I was just a lone wolf sitting duck up there. So I just had to, I told them when I got in the chat tonight, because I had to start and park last week, and I was a little behind on the points where I should have been. I told him, I said, I'm usually not aggressive at these tracks, but I'm going to try to get up front, stay up front. And, coming off of 4, I saw the run. Newman was coming, and then it was like perfect time, and I started going up to block it, and I saw they were wrecking, so I just went right back down, shut the door on Mark, who committed to the bottom. I think his left tires were on or slightly below the yellow line, so there was really nothing he could do. As in trying to, when I came down going high, I mean, I probably would have wrecked if he went extreme. But yeah, I hate these tracks. I needed a win, just so I didn't have to be watching the points next week, and got the win. So I'll be there next week to, lock into the, what do they do? 5 in this league, the final 5. So, and then we'll get ready for Homestead.
Absolutely, yeah, the Championship 5, which will be in just a couple weeks, and we know that you're pretty much going to be in good position to advance to that after your performance here tonight. So, Charles, before we let you head out to celebrate, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I mean, you for the broadcast, Beverly's for putting on a good league. Obviously, my teammates in turn 4, you got Evan and Keith. And Rick was up there fighting for a little bit. That was fun to watch him up there. And then obviously to my teammates with Goat Racing, Sammy, Christoph, all those guys. Obviously my company, Goat Racing Diecast, you 10% off of you. Goat Racing 23 pre-orders, new stuff, old stuff, whatever you want, I got it. So just hit me up.
And Charles, thank you for talking to us again. Congrats on the race win at one of the biggest tracks of them all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, now that's going to bring us to your second place finisher here tonight, the 55 of Mark Beverly. Mark, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, what's going on?
Well, you bring home a second place finish here tonight, and man, looked like you thought about it right there at the end. Do you think you just needed a little bit more room?
Yeah, I definitely need more room. I had a run on him, but I tried getting under him. He kind of hit me, and I didn't want to pass below the yellow, so I kind of just moved up, and I didn't have any more enough room anyways. But I was just trying to keep it low out of 4 because I saw people starting to bang, and I figured they'd start wrecking, and then I just didn't want to get clipped in the rear and then finish 20th after all that. So, but yeah, second's pretty good. We'll see where we end up in the points. Hopefully we jump a little bit and have a good shot at making the championship round.
And yeah, the points were actually the next thing I was going to bring up. Does it take a little bit of the stress off that one of the craziest tracks where you can have either one of the best finishes or one of the worst finishes goes good for you, knowing that next week we're going into a bit more of a technical track?
Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted, I wanted to obviously get a win, then you're locked in and not have to worry about next week because, it could get to where we start beating and banging and who knows what will happen there. So just kind of wanted to have a little better shot at that with the win. But yeah, we'll take the points and I don't know. We'll see how it goes next week.
Indeed. Well, hey, Mark, before we let you head out here tonight, a good podium finish. So is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, shout out to all of our sponsors. Shout out to you, everybody watching out there. And make sure you tune into the championship race in a couple weeks.
All right. And Mark, thank you again for talking to us. Congrats on the second place finish. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
All right. Well, I meant to say we'd see him next week, but obviously we're going to see him hopefully in a couple weeks if points continue to go in his favor. And now last but certainly not least, the last man finishing on the podium tonight, and that's Dylan Pause. Dylan, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do, Austin. How's it going?
Good. Well, man, you had a heck of a night in terms of a roller coaster, at least. The way it started didn't look like it was going to be a podium finish, and you end up with a third-place finish. Tell us first off about what was going through your mind there at the end, especially as they started wrecking off a 4.
Yeah, I mean, tell me about it. That was crazy. I think I said to Mark, and they wrecked like 3 times with the last 2 laps, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're just going to keep wrecking here, and it's just going to keep happening. I just kept avoiding it and kept getting lucky, and that's, kind of how these things go, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, and these super speedways, always chaotic, always crazy, but, I know that you weren't able to advance on to the round of 10, but you're still out here chasing trophies. We've got a couple races left with North Wilkesboro and then obviously Homestead. Do you feel like maybe you can grab a win at one of those 2 tracks in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, I definitely think I can. I always loved Homestead, ripping the wall there. I feel like I'm pretty good at doing that. Obviously, there's many different lines there, but North Wilkesboro, I don't know much about that in the Xfinity Series, but yeah, I'm going to go try to chase the trophy for the last race of the year.
Absolutely. Well, Dylan, we appreciate you talking to us. So before we let you head out, is there anything you want to anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my sponsors on board, Paradise Island Contracting in Port Charlotte. They do great home renovations, awesome job, and Shipwreck Saloon down there as well. If you're ever looking for a good time in Port Charlotte, that's the place to go right there. And obviously my parents, and yeah, thank you for broadcasting as well.
Dylan, thank you for talking to us again. Congrats on the 3rd place finish, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. See you, Austin.
All right. Well, there you go. That wraps up your top 3 interviews, and that is also going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Daytona International Speedway. Well, overall, a good race. In fact, not that messy as far as super speedways are concerned, so good news there. Now, next week, it'll be off to North Wilkesboro again. I will not be here. I'll be back on the afternoon shift, but I'll be back for the championship race, so looking forward to that. Appreciate everybody working with us. I apologize, but last semester of college, things get busy. And unfortunately, that's the way life goes sometimes. But nonetheless, back to the action on track tonight. Good race overall. Phenomenal win for Van Schaik. Win number 2. Great finish for Beverly. He needed it for points. And Dylan Pause getting himself back on to the podium. That's going to officially wrap up our coverage here tonight. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed. And until next time, have a good night.